Click the links to join the channel here over at SubScribestar mailbox as well. So there's a 2-minute lecture in a video game on pronouns, and the person who in quotes misgenders somebody because they use, I guess, some female uses plural pronouns or something. It's very confusing. And so she's encouraged to self-flagellate or to send a message to people that you need to physically punish yourself if you use the biologically correct and linguistically correct pronouns by doing 10 push-ups. It is the most god-awful, cringiest 2 minutes in a game that I don't know what they're charging for this, but I it's not free. And it just, the scene just goes on and on. It's not just a little, oh, sorry, I mean, they use they, not she or something. It's like, no, it's a 2-minute lecture. It's in my Telegram, though. Be warned, it is pretty offensive, mostly for me using slurs. So the video game, is it headed for a woke collapse? If it is, by all means, accelerate. It deserves it. It has done, video games, movies, and comics, they have done everything possible to oh no, the consequences of my bad decisions. We're losing billions of dollars. It must be, could the kids be wrong? No, it's you're just, people are not really into this woke stuff. Like, you getting triggered by me saying the word woke doesn't change the underlying reality that people are not into this. Woke is just an umbrella term. It means all the things we talk about all the time. These woke, these globalist type of values that are usually anti-white, anti-Christian, misandrists. If the left wing is on board with it, then the majority of the audience doesn't want to pay to see these things. And it's not just me saying this. Objectively, these movies, these games, these comics are all losing a ton of money. And when you remind these SJW slacktivists on Twitter about that, they lose their freaking minds, which I got to admit, I derive legitimate pleasure from watching someone, from being passively aggressive on Twitter and watching SJW just freak out and have to resort to ad hominems. So anyway, the industry, though, is probably big enough that they have enough old stuff, money coming in from IPs, that they'll probably see them through the hard times. But the inference or implication, I confuse those, of that is that eventually the game companies are going to turn around and get rid of the woke, the sweet baby, the black girl gamers, and all these other diversity hire types of stuff. And so far, both Hollywood and video games and comics have shown zero interest in doing that. And the thing is, this isn't organic. It's not grassroots, because you got these huge globalist investment companies, the State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, and all these other kind of people behind the curtains who are pulling the strings and putting money into these things that it doesn't logically make sense, but they're not driven by financial acumen. They're driven by ideology. This is as much a religion as those people drinking Kool-Aid in South America. So the big picture is normal people, us, don't want to be lectured to. Why am I talking with my hands? Don't want to be lectured to by these Epstein Island degenerates who seem very concerned with what they can insert in themselves, and also dressing up like clowns and drinking the globalist Kool-Aid. So you've got this disconnect between the customers in games and the soy boy, blue-haired weirdos in the industries. And I would love to see the person who wrote this 2-minute line, a lecture on pronouns, because they look exactly like you'd expect. I'm sure they would. I'm just taking a guess there. So the values of these two groups are different, which seems like I'm saying something really obvious. It is, but it should be said, because it kind of begs the question, well, why exactly is there such a disconnect between the buyer and the seller, or at least the people involved with the seller of these games, comics, and movies? And I can roughly speak for the majority of people who are buying games and watching movies. They think everything under that woke umbrella is AIDS. Diversity, feminism, race swapping, any globalist Bolshevik themes of the found family or non-traditional families. Almost nobody is interested in that. I think the Eternals had one of those non-traditional families, which was two men, mixed tribes, and they had a little kid, baby, a child, a male child, for some reason. Just like a lot of stuff you see on social media, you see it happen in that direction. Kind of seems like an overrepresentation. Okay. Really hard to not comment on this level where we are. At least, I mean, that's why Google bought YouTube to prevent people to control the narrative, prevent people from talking about certain things. Anyway, non-traditional stuff, nobody's into that because it's all nonsense. It's all the left hand sinister path. All that BLT stuff where kids pretend to not know what sex they are. It's all brainwashing. Or what was that Disney animation where they're on some foreign planet? And oddly enough, it's a husband and wife team, and they also are mixed tribe. Weird. I know, just a coincidence. And their kids are they're BLTs, so they're attracted to not the little girl next door, but the little boy next door. And these are little kids, kind of weird. Disney's sexualizing kids. It's like, oh, you really kind of checked every box there. You got mixed tribe, probably. It's what do you do to pox chicks and their hair with the woke crowd? It's anyway, they try to give them their natural hair, which is like not in the real world. That's not a style that most of these chicks use, but because like them using like hair straightener is it upsets the liberals who write these things, so they give them like not dreadlocks. What's that other style of hair? It's like, is it braided? Yeah, braided or something, or I don't know, like some kind of big fluffy curls. They want them to look natural, and it's like this is all just some liberal fantasy. They're sitting around, drinking wine and doing lines, coming up with this kind of stuff. If they could put them in a dashiki, circa 1979, they would. So the audience doesn't believe in these things. At least they're not interested in seeing these elements in. This is the 2-minute lecture. It's unbelievable. Seeing these elements in movies and games, because we feel rightfully so that's for SJWs. Except the issue is the games and movies are failing massively, like to the tune of billions of dollars across all three industries, movies, games, and comics. It's a truly staggering amount where the fallout is going to downstream consequences are going to be very serious. But the problem is the SJWs are not interested in that nonsense. Also, it's because they're saying one thing on Twitter, but doing another thing when it comes time to spend money. In other words, they're virtue signaling. Because even SJWs don't like woke, or maybe there's just not that many SJWs IRL and they're overrepresented online. The thing is, I mean, we all know left-wing people, and we all know, personally we know left-wing people, and some are crazier than others, but they're not interested in this woke stuff. There's the IRL left-winger, and then there's the musical theater, gay, virtue signaling persona online, because the problem is woke stories are just open propaganda that deep down nobody really believes. So when it's time to actually go to a theater and pay for this stuff, or buy these games, the Concord and Dustborn type of stuff, to see the Eternals or Madam Girl Power Web or the Marvels or all this Terminator female edition. And I mean, they've been doing it, like, I kind of been paying attention to it since Ghostbusters 2016, which also lost money. Hey, how well did Charlie's Angels do? It's like, oh, this is another long string in girl power movies. You'd think someone would kind of like put their foot down and say, why don't we put this on the shelf for a little while? Because we need to make some money. People aren't actually paying for this stuff, and it's so she does. I don't know how much of this I can show. She does some push-ups to self-flagellate. So there's physical punishment involved because she used a linguistically and biologically correct pronouns. The clip is 2 minutes long. It's a lecture. I'd be embarrassed to be in the same room with these people. Like, say you're working there and you're just getting paid and you're keeping your mouth shut and you're looking around. It's like, oh my God, it's like laughing in church or something. So this example here has got insane diversity hires putting in some scene about the pronoun nonsense. And, well, I mean, your gender is your sex. You use the masculine form if male. Saying that you identify as something you're not doesn't mean anything other than you're a useful idiot. Here she's doing push-ups. Who's riding a bandwagon that's going to fade in a few years. Hopefully you don't cut your nuts off or your breasts off, because I promise you're going to regret that for as long as you choose to go forward, which is another issue they don't talk about. It's unbelievable. I can't even. I get secondhand embarrassment. So the scene is an issue because they're pushing this concept of compelled speech with punishment, physical punishment for mistakes. When the left used to be pro free speech, now they support censorship and compelled speech. They want to force people to say things that the speaker doesn't agree with. If some SJW of one sex wants them to use the wrong pronouns, I don't think I can do it because they're asking me to lie and validate their fantasy. It actually causes me to have a physical reaction because I get a little anxiety because I know something is deeply wrong. It's more than just dealing with a mentally ill person who you might have to pepper spray and run. It's dealing with a system-wide societal issue where this is accepted. Something is deeply wrong with a society that is allowing this to go forward. It feels like they're in the governance of the country. There's no adults at the reins, and you look around and like, no, there really aren't, as you saw from the past 5 years of peaceful rioting where they burned and deleted people. So think about the larger implications of asking and then forcing people to lie to validate somebody's personal delusions. It's not just censorship. It's trying to force someone's to say something that they know is a lie. It's a dangerous, slippery slope where they're trying to use social pressure to force people to lie and accept something that's just not in accord with reality. I mean, if some SJW wants you to use the wrong pronouns for them and you say, no, you can't lie, well, now you've got an awkward situation, but they're the ones who created it because they're trying to impose their will on you to get you to lie. But it's important to not give in and take the softer, easier path. And some people get around this by just using the person's name, which is awesome because it's you passively, aggressively, and telling them that their worldview is nonsense. And it is awkward to use the name instead of the correct pronouns. And it's just like they know what you're doing, but it's enough that human resources can't do anything about it. Your work is forcing you to do it, but they'd probably view it as like, well, that's a fair compromise. They're using their name. And there's I read about some guy who was using my esteemed colleague over there instead of using their pronouns, and it's like, they, like, everyone knows. And here's the thing: it's like if you're in a work environment and everyone just got together and there's like 15 people and they all went to HR and they go, yeah, we're not gonna use this person's pronouns. Like, okay, well, now you're in the position of fire that person or fire all the 15 other employees. It's like people, that's the point of a union. But diversity actually just destroys social cohesion enough that it usually destroys not union formation, but being able to actually accomplish anything, which is, I think Amazon did a study of that. That's why they have a diverse workforce, because it destroys the union actually being able to advocate for their own position and benefit Amazon to, again, the past few years, to the tune of billions of dollars. The thing with all this is this is all just a childish fad that a few years from now is going to be forgotten. What it is an SJW trying to force you to take part in this nonsense because it gives them control over you, and I think they get off on that. I suppose another way to play it is to pick the wrong pronouns for yourself, to let them see how silly it is to call a bearded man with a shaved head, 6'1", 280 pounds or something, is she, her, or Zer, Zim, or your Lord and Most High, the Right Honorable, whatever. But this, who wants to see this stuff in a video game? And this thing goes on. It's a 2-minute. I mean, look at the symbolism of this. She's on the ground doing push-ups. Her face is in the ground. She is bowing to her master, and her master is this globalist woke ideology of having to pretend to use. I mean, this is the symbolism of her facing down is really, really degrading and dehumanizing. And that's the point, is that these people have put themselves on the top of the hierarchy. They're even higher than the POCs, as Dave Chappelle pointed out. Because they're the ones who write the articles. The power of repetition of a message, which is the heart of advertising. Well, it's also the heart of brainwashing and propaganda. It's just repeating a message, which, if you are saturated in the media, you have that ability to do so and put yourself at the top of a pyramid. Which, other people who used to be at the top of that hierarchy viewed themselves as it. and now they've been pushed down several steps. And I gotta, it's like watching the left eat themselves a little bit, and nobody is challenging the this trans collection, because they're the ones who are writing the articles for all these online magazines. It's like, you write the articles, you control the narrative to a large extent, until the people who are funding those magazines decide to find a different soup du jour. So the thing is, people don't want to see this in games. So just let them take hundreds of millions of dollars, put it in wheelbarrows, and burn it, because figuratively, that's what's happening. I get pleasure in that. They spend a year or two making some woke piece of AIDS cancer. The public, the Phantom Menace, the Comicsgate crowd, the Twitter crowd, they go, oh, this is woke. And these people lose their mind over that. And then it goes on, it loses $100 million. Well, that's us expressing ourselves. And I do get there's a little serotonin, dopamine boost going on when I see the Twitter slacktivists absolutely lose their mind when the games and the movies bomb, and they try to justify it, and they just, the copium is off the chart, and you go, it just looks woke to me, and kind of a G-slur type of stuff. And you have to say things with a straight face, at least in verbally, or on a social media post, where they don't think you're trying to troll them. You just have to say, oh, this looks a little too gay for me. I'm not really into this kind of stuff, with a straight face, and see their response to it. And they just immediate ad hominem. It's like, yeah, you can, incel Chad, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't actually get people to buy the theater, that go buy the tickets to this thing, go to the theater and spend 2 hours watching. Oh, so hey, SJW, why didn't you go to the theater? Why didn't you buy Concord or Dustborn? And they don't have a response to that, because the reality is, say a game is $50. They look at that and like, yeah, I don't want to spend $50 for a woke game. They're hoping somebody else buys the propaganda. It's like, get effed. This is actually pretty good. I'll take this for a screenshot. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks everyone who sent me the LG, and everyone else for the keyboards and the flash drives, and the other two unusual gifts somebody sent. I don't. More on that later. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.